Welcome to the Fit Marriage Show, the #1 straight talk fitness show for busy folks. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, and today I'm excited to bring you Andrew and Sue O'Brien with Couple on the Run. The greatest thing and the neatest thing about Andrew and Sue is that they ran 8 marathons in 8 weeks in 8 countries, and they're going to share it with you here on how they did it, where they went, their nutrition, training. It's all packed, and even better yet, they really bring this all together and how it impacts their marriage. So, a little bit about these two. Married 13 years, they have 2 kids. Sue is a certified group fitness instructor. Andrew is an entrepreneur, CEO, speaker. They are authors of Couple on the Run. If you want to find out more about them, go to coupleontherun.com, and you can also check out another site they have, partnerrunning.com. So, without further ado, let's jump in this interview with Andrew and Sue. Welcome, Andrew and Sue, to the Fit Marriage Show. I'm happy to have you here tonight.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be here.
Great to be here.
It's awesome, yeah. So for all of you who heard the intro there, obviously you did. Andrew and Sue did a remarkable thing. I mean, they did 8 marathons, 8 weeks, 8 countries. So we're going to let them tell you the story because I can't tell it the way they can. So you guys share with us how this came about, the idea of running 8 marathons in 8 weeks, and on top of that, traveling to 8 different countries.
Well, it started, first of all, I suppose, that it was coming up to a significant wedding anniversary for us, and we thought we might take a trip. Our children were at the age that they'd finished school, and we could leave them at home on their own and actually go out and do something that we wanted to do without worrying about them.
So that was the first part of the idea. And then we had wanted for many years to go to South Africa and run the Comrades Marathon. Famous race, 87 or 89 kilometres, depending on the year. One year it goes up, the next year it goes down. And as we started to look into it, we thought, well, we also wanted to run the Rio de Janeiro Marathon. And
so that's Brazil?
Yes.
Okay.
So the cost of a ticket to South Africa and back was about the same as a ticket to go around the world. So we thought, well, we'll head off to South Africa, and then 2 weeks later we'll keep on going, we'll go to Brazil.
Okay.
So that was the next part of it. And then we had been writing a book on partner running, because ever since we'd started running together, every time we finish a race, people would say to us, oh, that's really good, you run together. I wish I could run with somebody, but it's too hard, and there's all these reasons why they can't. So we'd been researching and we've been developing these tips and techniques for people running together. And so we thought, well, this could be a chance as we're developing the 8 marathons to actually put the theory to the test, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, rather than just the 2, let's, we're going all that travel, let's do a few more and see what's possible. And so,
yeah, we started to look at dates, and of course the internet is a wonderful tool for checking out what's on, what's there, what's next. And we started to put together a little bit of an itinerary. And I think we originally came up with the concept of 7 races in 8 weeks. And someone said to us, gee, that doesn't have a great ring. What about 8 marathons in 8 weeks? And what were we up to? I think we were up to 3-4 continents. Or
yes, we've been thinking about continents rather than countries. And then they said, oh, yeah, if you get to 8 weeks in 8 countries, 8 marathons in 8 weeks. And we said, well, we'd be in 8 countries then, so we could do that. And so the 8, 8, and 8 sort of became a catchy title.
Right.
And then the last piece of the puzzle was, as part of our training for the Comrades, we had run a race called the Oxfam Trail Walker, which is to raise funds for Oxfam and the work that they do around the world. It's a 100-kilometre event in teams of 4. And so then we thought, well, okay, it's all coming together. So what we'll do here is we'll raise some money for Oxfam. And one of Oxfam's goals is to work with people to make the communities better.
Okay.
And our whole thing is about people working together, better relationships, more healthy relationships. So it sort of became, we had a reason that was much more than just our initial thinking about going to South Africa. So it became 8 marathons, 8 countries, 8 weeks, promoting Oxfam, healthy relationships, and partner running or people exercising together.
And it was a good fit because Oxfam do a lot of work in underprivileged countries, and it seemed that we were in somewhere like South Africa, for instance, and then going down to South America, whilst of course we did go to North America and Canada. It would just seemed a good fit for us.
Cool. That is really cool. Now, we sort of jumped into this to the 888, but let's talk. Let's no, and I wanted us to because it's just cool. Let's talk about you guys as athletes, because you're running together. You're developing partner running. You're talking to people about this, but you guys are obviously very different runners, and in size too. Let's talk about your heights, because I think
even, but yeah, we're not that even height.
Because I think that makes that's a huge thing when we talk about that. So talk to us a little bit about where you guys were before you even started this.
Yeah, it probably does go back to the start. When we first met, I had just given up cigarettes.
Wow.
I was very focused on my corporate career. I sort of lived on cigarettes, coffee, and pizza. And I'd just given up. I just got to about 30, and I decided that this wasn't sustainable, and I kind of wasn't feeling the person I had been in my teens, because I'd been very fit and healthy. So I'd given up cigarettes and decided I better start going to the gym. And Sue was teaching the group fitness classes.
Yeah. At the gym you were going to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so over time we became friends, and Sue was giving me advice and that sort of thing. And then about 2 years later, she asked me out one day. And
good for you, Sue.
Yes, there you go. Something for International Women's Week's just gone past. Yes, it was a.
So our sort of relationship started to blossom, and at that stage, Sue was representing Australia in triathlon. She was a very good triathlete over the Olympic distance, which is 10K is the run leg of Olympic distance for any of the listeners who aren't aware of the different triathlon distances. And so my job was to carry the bike, drive her to the course, and then I'd go for a little bit of a run up and down and sort of do some cheering and that sort of thing. And everything was going great guns. And then we'd been out for a training run one weekend because we were doing our running and I used to ride the bike with Sue for training, and I couldn't get up. And anyway, cut the long story short, I had 6 months later, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Ooh.
So,
which is a bit of a challenge for any relationship, but a new relationship as well, because we'd only recently got married. So it was something that we had to deal with. And, that was part of sort of trying to be supportive for Andrew and give some advice from my fitness background that was going to help him get better. And we were, I suppose, as we do with everything, we do a lot of research. So we were reading a lot of books, and he can probably tell the story better. But I think with chronic fatigue syndrome, a lot of the suggestion at the moment is to try and do a little bit of exercise, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, all of that sort of thing. But
so my goal was then, if I could run a marathon, then I would be recovered from chronic fatigue. And so that took about 2 years, and we went to Los Angeles, and Sue sort of cheered and walked, and I made it to the end of the marathon. And at that stage, Sue was still racing triathlons for Australia. And about 18 months later, we found ourselves in Chicago. And I think Sue loves to compete more than watch. And so we're in Chicago, and we entered the marathon together. But the intention was Sue was going to run for a little while, and then I was going to go on, and she was going to meet me at the finish.
Yeah, because I had no idea. I really believed I couldn't run a marathon. I was fine for 10 kilometres. Maybe I could get to 15. I tried when I was in my teens back in Australia, and I hadn't been able to finish, and I had to pull out. My knee was sore, and I'd never been able to. So it was sort of like during this first race in Chicago in 2000, or for our first marathon together, we got to about that point, and I said to Andrew, right, that's it, Dal. I'll see you finish. I've had enough. I'm pulling out. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'll just get to the finish on my own. I'm a big girl. I'll meet you at the finish.
And I said, well, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to go without you. Let's get to the next drink stop. And we did. We had the drink, we walked through the drink stop, and then I said, well, let's get to the next drink stop. And sure enough, with about 10 miles to go, and at Chicago, there's about 10 drink stops. By the time I think we got to about mile 22, Sue was bouncing along, fresh as a daisy, and I was a bit worse for wear, but we together got to the finish.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was this whole lesson about, gee, if we stick together, we've got so much more out of it. And that became the sort of the beginning of doing all our running together and discovering just how powerful that was.
And also I think a little shift in philosophy of the most important thing is to get to the finish together, as opposed to like me going, I'm sore, that's it, I'm pulling out. Is a different way of looking at the main thing is that we get there. And however we're going to get there, we'll get there eventually. Might take us longer. Right. But we're going to get there. And that was a big shift for us.
What was the shift in your marriage when you started looking at, we're going to do this together? Because there seems to be a little correlation already. I can see that you've had this shift where like you said, Sue, we're going to do this together. It doesn't matter if we finish slower or faster, but it's together. So how in 2000, you're still newlyweds in the sense that, a couple of years into your marriage, what was that shift in your marriage? Did you notice one? Did you sense one?
I think for many people who've run marathons or taken on a big challenge, doesn't have to be a marathon, when they stick at it and are successful, it generates this, well, yeah, I can do it. This confidence that, yes, I can. I can. If I stick at something, I can be successful. Well, what we often talk about is if you multiply the impact that you can have individually by doing it together, that for us was quite dramatic. And so rather than just learning that, yes, I can, it became, yes, we can. And combining between the, gee, we stuck together instead of splitting up like everyone told us we should and you were meant to. We actually, when the chips were down, we just stuck together. We then started to take that into everything else. And so things like investing in the share market. It'd been one of those things that, we thought we should be doing, but we were a bit scared to give it a try. And so we actually spend our time talking on our run training, talking about why we should do it, how we could start, and the confidence that we got from sticking together running gave us the confidence then to, invest, to invest in some property, to invest in some shares. I went back to study and doing a doctorate. Sue started teaching some new programs and took on some new challenges. So the confidence and the lessons we learnt running, we were able to then apply to the rest of our, not just our relationship, but our professional lives as well.
I think one of the factors with that is the communication channels open up, and you get confidence of, it sounds strange, exposing yourself, meaning your vulnerability. I was really vulnerable in that marathon in 2000. I was hurting. I was showing my pain. I was showing I was weak. I couldn't cope. But that honesty and being honest with each other and communicating early if you're having a problem or you need to discuss something, bring it out in the open rather than letting something fester for ages was another really empowering part for our relationship, that we felt something's bothering us, we can talk about it without worry, without being judged by the other person.
And this is where the whole partner running came about then for you guys, in sharing this with others.
Yeah, well, what then happened was we started to understand more and more what was happening for us. And we would be realizing that when we would go out for our training run, the kids would be at home, there would be no television, there would be no phones, there'd be no email, there would be no distraction. And so that time alone together running was just great time, and we started really talking about, what was the life that we wanted to lead, what were the things, the problems and the challenges we were facing, what were we going to do for our holiday next year, you name it. We talked about all the important things in life, and because we were out running together, we had no distraction and none of that. So as time has gone on and we've learnt more about it, we've discovered that for a lot of men, particularly, not just for men, but for a lot of people, but certainly for I think more men than women, the idea of sitting down at the kitchen table or in the lounge room and having a heart-to-heart discussion about your relationship and what you're trying to do together. For a lot of guys, it's not that easy. It's not natural.
Yeah, I agree.
But you go out and it could be a long walk or, in our case, a run or a cycle or something like that. And it's like, well, it just starts
conversation flows. Yeah,
it starts to happen and become natural. So that was one part of the puzzle. And then the other thing we discovered is there's quite a bit of research in terms of the scientific side that after you've exercised for about half an hour, your whatever chemicals you release in the brain and those sorts of things, you actually become better at problem solving. You're able to think a bit more clearly. You're able to be a bit more open. So we kind of combined the fact that we were alone together exercising, no distractions, plus we were running, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours. So we were into that zone when the brain was really open to communicating and thinking well. And so when we put all that together, we just found that we were having these amazing conversations about, what our life should be like and why we weren't doing things and why we should do things. And the quality of those conversations just transformed everything we did.
I mean, that's also sort of, I suppose, when I say the negative things, it's bringing out problems, but it was also a great chance to really sit and have walk and have an extended conversation about the more pleasurable things. Well, what do we want to do for our next holiday? What can we do? What would be good? Or what would be better? Or what about if we did this? And that creative process about thinking about things you'd like to do, or in our case, we started to form that we'd like to do this event. Hey, let's put a holiday around it, and that'd be good if we could do that. And maybe we'll involve the kids. Let's see if the kids can come and run with us or be with us. So it was a very pleasurable time. We looked forward to our run to discuss some good things, as well as taking it as the opportunity to bring out some serious discussion points.
Wow. And I'm sure now you guys have been at this for 11 years. And over this time, you've probably heard of a lot of excuses from people. One that I can think of right now, especially for our audience, we got small kids around the house. How do we get out? How do we do this as a couple? What is your response to folks that come up with these excuses, which are valid ones? I mean, you can't leave a 5 and a 3-year-old at home and take off for a 2.5 hour run. How can couples who want to do something like this, who want to do partner running or cycling or hiking or walking, how can they do that when they do have little ones running around the house?
There's probably two elements at the start that, as we did more and more research and developed more of those little tips and techniques, partner running is about two people running together. And so it could be a husband and wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, etc. But it can also be, friends or work colleagues and that sort of thing. So there are some extra advantages that you get in a marriage or in a committed relationship in terms of exercising together, but you still get a lot of benefits in training with a friend or whatever else. So the reason I mentioned that is that one of the options that relates to the couple with the young family is looking at the different scenarios. So it could be you find another couple,
that's similar,
and it might be that if it's the traditional sort of husband-wife combination, that the wives might look after the kids while the men go off and run together or cycle together. And then when the men come home, the women go and run together. It might be that, on Saturday morning, your family will look after our kids while Sue and I go off and run together. And then the next day or the next week or whatever it might be, we'll swap around. And so you actually look after each other's kids whilst the other couple goes out and runs. And so you start to look at the different combinations. And then the other one is, as we often say to people, you would spend a lot of money on a child minding to go out to a movie or a dinner every now and then. Again, friends, family, or hire a person to come and look after your kids, once a week while you go off for a run together. It's a small investment in terms of spending that time together.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the last one that we've used a lot for the family scenario is is we include the kids. As they were much younger, they would ride their bikes and we would run next to them.
Yep. Or the stroller, even younger again. He got a stroller pushing the very smallest one in a stroller when they were that age. So that's another option. Or even one of the ones which I have heard of some people using is in Australia, there are some playing fields that have got children's play equipment next to the playing fields. Or you can actually have the children on the playing field with some toys or something to keep them occupied whilst you run laps
around the track.
Track, yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, even here in California, I know we got a number of tracks at the schools, and there's a big grassy area right in the middle where you're always able to see the kids as you're going around it.
Yeah, so the safety element, if you don't want to leave your kids. And it might be that you only get 2 laps uninterrupted before there's a problem or someone comes running over to you or whatever, but it's still something that they learn to get better at too with kids. They know that's what it's going to be. It's not threatening. They'll usually start to warm towards it.
Nice.
Particularly if it's a reward afterwards. If you we'll all go and have an ice cream or something like that.
Or a little picnic afterwards or something
some sort of little family treat.
Yeah, I dig that. So as you've come through the years and you're developing your partner running together, obviously you guys are doing more marathons together. Mm-hmm. And so I want to jump now back to the book Couple on the Run, and let's talk about your training for this feat. And how did you do it? And what were some of the highs that you had? And I always like listening about the lows, because I think the lows are what really make us who we are. As much as we love being on the high, and I as an endurance athlete know that, it's at those low moments when we really learn who we are. So, and in your guys' instance, it's just so interesting because you're doing it together. And I just find that so amazing that you're Andrew, you could have a high day, Sue, you could have a low day. How are you working on that? Happens in our relationships around the house. Yeah. Wife is having a high day, I'm having a low day. So I know that's a lot of questions, but let's just start with the training of it.
Well, I think we decided that we were going to do it in August of 2007.
Okay.
And the first race was June 15, 2009. So it's about 2008, sorry.
Yeah.
So it was about 9 months of pretty much the training build-up.
Okay.
And it was like...
And we worked out a few target events that we wanted to do along the way. Mm-hmm. And we knew where we were starting from, and what we had to get to by that date. And so we started to plot out gradually increasing our running over the period.
So there were 2 big challenges. Running marathons every weekend, which is something we hadn't done. We had done the Boston Big Sur combination, which is about like from the Monday to not the next weekend, the weekend. So it's almost 2 weeks.
Okay.
But so that was our closest we'd run back-to-back marathons. So we hadn't run
even 2 back-to-back. Yeah.
So that was the first big challenge, and then the second big challenge, which was I think even bigger, was the Comrades Marathon in South Africa.
And that was your first one, right?
Yeah, that was our first one. I know. I think it was.
Wasn't it your uncle in the book, Sue, who said you guys were crazy? He said you guys were crazy, and then when you said that Andrew was going to do it, he said you were definitely crazy?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So you guys got to read the book. It's a great read. You got to get it.
Well, that reminds me when you mentioned earlier that like the differences in heights. So I'm 6'2".
Okay.
And I'm 5'2".
Yeah.
So we've got. So if we stand up,
there's a sort of a difference in the stride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And I'm quite big and strong and heavy, and Sue's.
And I'm about 50. Oh, I was going to say 110 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, you're a typical build 10K physique. Yeah.
Yeah. She's built for running, and I'm built for carrying the suitcases, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So the first, running back-to-back marathons, that was the challenge. And then the second one was, well, could we run 87 kilometres in a day?
Mm-hmm.
And so the first one of back-to-back marathons, we had been using the Jeff Galloway walk breaks type thing to avoid injuries and build up. And we used that a lot in our training. And so we quickly found that we could go, and we became more and more confident about being able to do back-to-back.
Yeah. Okay. I think our training we built up, we worked out that in our training we wanted to accomplish a 6-hour run and be on our feet that long, because it was, even if you weren't actually running, it was the standing up and the walking around. So our training runs just kept increasing in distance.
Yeah.
And so our goal was to get up to 5 hours by November, and then 6 hours in February, and then we did the Oxfam 100 kilometres in a day in April, or into March, start of April.
Yeah.
And so we figured if we'd been able to train up to do that, then we were giving ourselves every opportunity to make it through the hills in South Africa for 87 kilometres.
Because I think that's the other factor, that our first marathon, that 87-kilometre one, it's extremely hilly. Like, one of the challenges is the Big Five hills. So we live in quite a flat area of Melbourne, so we had to actually practice in the hills and learn to strengthen our legs and use cross training on bikes, stationary cycles, to try and really build up leg strength for the running that we had to do in South Africa as well.
Okay. I think there's a you asked about some of the real challenges and the tough points. For people who have run half marathons and marathons, to go and train for 2 or 3 hours is reasonably manageable when you think about how early you need to get up, if it's hot and all those sorts of things. But 6 hours is a very different. So if you leave home at 7 o'clock in the morning and you're going to run for 6 hours, I mean, you're into the hot part of the day.
Yep.
And so we're training through our summer.
And Australian summer's warm.
Quite hot, yeah. We had days up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And so we were leaving home at 3:30, running with lights.
In the morning.
So that we could get home by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at the latest, and beat the heat. Okay. So that was tough.
I think the other tough thing,
I was just going to say, well, I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail 11 years ago now, so from Mexico to Canada. So I can totally understand you guys trying to emulate running a marathon week after week, because that was one of the toughest things that I had to train for. Trying to do the Pacific Crest Trail, my goal was to hike 20 miles a day for basically 5 months. And how do you train for that? You don't. You just sort of, you do as much as you can, do the best you can, and just hope and pray for the best. That, man, when you're out there, you just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think that's a good point, that you can build up to a certain level, and then it's like, well, this is going to keep me going at the start, and it's then, can my body adapt to the extra demand that comes on after that? So.
Was there ever a point when either of you wanted to quit?
I don't think so much quitting. I think it was, we had different obstacles that we had to overcome. Okay. And again, it was ways of finding around that. I got very bad plantar fasciitis.
I hate that thing. I hate that thing.
I feel your pain. We ended up timing the last cortisone injection, or my cortisone injection that I was allowed to take, 5 days before we flew out, and then fingers crossed that it was going to last through. But we never thought, even when I was in a lot of pain with my foot, it wasn't so much, well, now we have to give up. It was, what can we do to keep our fitness up, to keep training together, maybe do some more bike classes or water running or something that's going to compensate for what we couldn't, or weren't able to do. But we did end up getting through all of our events, our target events, which was the main factor for us.
Yeah, I think there was those couple of moments where one of us, with Sue's foot, and then I had an incident with my hip and groin where I thought, gee, this could be the end of it. Yeah. They were the points where it was like I felt, am I going to let Sue down? This is sad, we've done all this work, what are we going to do? But I've got very bad arthritis in my right hip. And in fact, I was told never to run again. It was about 52 marathons ago.
Only 52 marathons ago I was told never to run again, but I'm going to do it. Rad.
Our milestones was we took the kids to Disney World for the Disney World Marathon in January. And Sue and I ran the half marathon on the Saturday with our daughter Shelley, and then we ran the marathon the next day. So if we could run the Goofy Challenge, the half, and then the marathon, that was again part of our build-up, and it was like a critical point. If we can do that, we're on track. And so 2 weeks later, we came home, and there was a race here called the Mansfield to Buller, which is 30 kilometres on the flat through the countryside, and then 20 kilometres up to the top of one of the ski resorts.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's basically straight up, very big mountain. And a lot of the people had said, if you can do that race, then you're in good steady for making it to the Comrades. And well, on the flight back from the US to Australia, and then in the driving up to the mountains to do this race, my hip and groin played up very badly, and it was like I had a knife jabbing into my thigh through almost the whole race. And it was like, do we keep going? Do we not? We know we need to prove to ourselves we can do it, but if we keep going, the damage might be the end of the whole thing. And we decided as we were running along that we would keep going, and we would see what happened. And I lost about 2 weeks training, but then recovered it and came good. So it was that period of, wow, we might not make it to the start line because of an injury. That was a tough thing to do.
Yeah. I think also one of the things that we've done is that if one of us is injured or sick or having a bad day, instead of going for a run, we might do an alternate activity. So I think just as one of those day-to-day things, if one of us is injured or we do, or, not quite well enough to run, but we could go for a walk, or we could go and do a cycle class together, we might choose that as an alternate activity so that we're still doing something together, but we might not do the run factor if one of us isn't up to it for an injury purpose.
No, and that's a great point. Yeah, to change it up so that way you're not completely down on yourself because you can't run.
Yeah,
and that would
very important.
Now, was there ever a point though when you guys just didn't see eye to eye at all, or even just at the point where it was just there's no more? You brought it up, Andrew, a few times, but did you ever? And I guess what I'm trying to convey here is that, was it all about you at this point in time, or did you see a bigger picture?
No, that's a great question, and that's fundamental to probably. It's fundamental in the book, and it's fundamental to our approach to connect the various activities with what we might call goals and vision. And so part of running the 888 was capturing the story to encourage other people to run, train, exercise with a partner. And so during the tough training times, and sometimes during the races, but more in the training, we would often talk about the fact that we really want to be successful in doing this so we can write the book, so that we can go out and talk to people, give speeches, and encourage other people to get more active. And so, some of those simple things like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, who wants to get out of bed?
Yeah.
It's like,
I've been there. I know that feeling.
But if we don't, we won't succeed. We won't be able to write the book. We won't be able to encourage other people. So linking everything to a bigger purpose and ultimately to something which was more than us. The idea of encouraging more people to exercise with a partner and experience some of the benefits that we have, that was fundamental in continuing to keep going.
Because I think a lot of people do, perhaps at the first sign of trouble, say that's it, or they lose track of the bigger picture and what the alternatives are. And one of our sort of partner running tips is about considering the different scenarios and different options available to you. So if this isn't working, why don't I try that? If it's a wet day, what are we going to do? So you've got an alternate plan, and that's one of our big partner running tips, which I suppose we need to explain in greater detail. But
yeah, because you guys obviously had the bigger plan. The big goal was up here. For the normal person listening, they're going, man, I'd just be happy to run a 5K. So how do they set those goals up for themselves so that they don't get discouraged, or they don't get so they don't fall down and then never get back up.
I think it's no matter what your situation is, you can work through the things that are important to you in your life. So an example that I often give is a guy who was, say, back where I was and very unfit.
Yeah.
And you would say to someone in that situation, do you want to see your kids graduate? Do you want to see your daughter get married or whatever it is? And most people go, yeah, I'm really into that.
Mm.
And so okay, now the way you're living your life at the moment, you're not really, I know I'm not fit. And if I don't get my act together, I might not be around in 10, 15, 20 years to see my kids do those things.
Right.
And so for a lot of people, anchoring something like that, that's kind of on a par with us writing a book and encouraging other people. So it's the thing which really keeps you excited and going. And so then you work back from that. It's okay, once a year, I need to run a half marathon. So every year I'll run a half marathon because then I'll be keeping myself in okay shape or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then bring that back to, okay, so once a quarter, I'm going to run a 5K or a 10K. And that kind of brings it back to, well, I better be a bit careful with what I eat, and I better go to the gym once a week, and I better at least run a short run once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And so you're fixed on that notion of watching your kids graduate from high school or from university or whatever it might be. It might be going fishing when you've retired from work, but you have something that's 10, 15, 20 years down the track that you really, really want, and then connect that to this year and this week sort of activities.
You're leaving a legacy too for those who have younger kids. You're leaving a legacy because they get to see mom or dad or both living this healthy lifestyle.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So you're giving them a picture of, well, that must be something that we need to consider in our day-to-day lives of doing this as well, of keeping fit. And, I mean, we all know the problems with childhood obesity and the inactivity. We just feel that we're presenting a good image, and we have over the years for our kids. And they go out and exercise every day. It might not be strenuously, but they feel, I better go for a walk. I better do something.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition for you guys, because that plays an important role. I mean, you guys are going out for long runs, 6 hours. I mean, those are long runs, 2-hour runs. I know this. I just did a 7.5 hour bicycle ride yesterday, training up for a double century. How were you guys feeding yourselves? What were you doing as you were training for this to prepare your body? What kind of energy were you putting in there?
I think we both eat. Sue particularly eats very, very well all the time.
Okay.
And I'm not too bad, but certainly better than most people. As we were really into the middle of our training, our big thing is on the second and third day before a long run or a long event, is that when we would eat some like potato and some pasta and that sort of thing. We're not big eaters the day before. I mean, we'll eat normally, but we won't. We think it's 2 days and 3 days before is when you get your benefit.
It's more important perhaps with the hydration over the last 2 days leading into a long cardiovascular event than it is, than the food side of it is by the time you get to that last 12 hours, 24 hours before.
So our afternoon or evening before, we're big on pancakes.
Yeah.
Because we find that when you're traveling different parts of the world, a pancake's a safe option. It can be quite light. And if you're in a different country and they serve you something with the pasta sauce or whatever, it can be too much garlic or onion or
spicy, hot, upset your stomach. You might think it's what you used to. So we've just found that when you're traveling in particular, that pancakes is a healthy option or a good option, apart from during the 8 marathons when it was 8 weeks in a row of pancake on that, it was just a bit too much.
Yeah.
So, and also some of the countries and locations we were in, pancakes weren't actually available to us. So we had to be a little bit riskier with our choices. But again, trying to keep something light, fairly bland, not too spicy, easy to digest the night before an event is a must, I think.
Yep. And then during races, we're mainly goos. most of the drinks that are going. We found with the long endurance things, particularly in the hot days, Coca-Cola was really handy. South Africa, they provide potatoes during the Comrades Marathon, and most of those were really good. Sue enjoyed the chocolates.
Yeah, I like chocolate. I'm fine with chocolate while I'm running. Which sounds strange, but yeah, I think the only problem we got into nutrition provided on the course was in Thailand when we got to the first drink station and we saw the locals reaching into empty sort of rubbish bin style water containers with their bare hands, picking up sort of cups of water and putting them on the table. And we just thought,
oh,
it's only marathon, number 5, or that we can't risk getting sick here. This is, a no-go zone. So we went into 7-Elevens and actually bought drinks rather than...
And carried them.
Yeah, and carried them rather than...
Hey, there's a 7-Eleven in Thailand. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I suppose that's the nutrition from that aspect.
Yep.
Yeah, no. And I think nutrition is different for everybody. And I love for people to hear. I mean, it changes for what you're doing. And I just love hearing what you guys are doing, because somebody may grab onto it and be like, wow, I've been eating this. And they may hear the pancake thing. I didn't even think of the pancake thing. Well, what a great piece of advice.
I think it's a great point that you make, that it's individual. It's different for each one of us. And the other thing I have learnt, which I think is a very valuable tip for people, is that sometimes when you're doing a run or a cycle or a long event, whatever food you're used to won't work. It might be extra hot, or you might have a bit of a virus, or it might be to train with what you're going to use if you can, but also just because on a single day you can't take your goo or you can't take a banana, don't throw that out and say for never, it won't work for me ever again. It might be that on that day it was something else which was contributing. So if I'm having trouble with a certain food, I try it 2 or 3 times before I discard it and put it on my I can't go with that list, because I do get once every 50 times I won't be able to take in a goo or a power gel or something. It just won't work. And it's not about them, it's about me on that day.
Yeah.
And often people at the first sign of trouble, I'll throw that out, I'll look for something else. And actually it's not necessarily the way to go.
Or they try it for the first time, and because something's so foreign to their system, they just go, oh no, I've tried that once, that didn't work. And it's even just a first time thing, and they think, but it's proven nutrition, or it's other people have had success with it and you've had success with it before. Give it another try.
Ultra athletes have an issue with obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to nutrition. I don't know if you agree with that, but from my years in it, and me, I can raise my hand because I've been there. We get a little obsessive compulsive with our eating, and you bring up a good thing, because I've gone through that too, Andrew, where it's like, it's just a hot day. And the last couple of weeks have been beautiful weeks, and all of a sudden you hit this one day and it's 100 degrees and your body is just frying, and sure, that goo or whatever you're eating, the bar, it just doesn't taste right because your internals are just on fire.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely. And of course, the post-race treat is another important part of endurance events. And we often sort of think of something that this is our reward, or we really look forward to something when we finish. But quite often we're feeling so upset in the stomach, or we don't feel quite comfortable to enjoy it either. But it's nice to have something that you think, I'm going to really go and enjoy or whatever it is when you finish.
Yep.
Do you guys ever do a recovery smoothie or a recovery drink, or do you just like to just mellow out, drink some water, and just wait till the stomach settles?
Usually a smoothie or a cold soft drink or something is about all that we feel like and all that we can take. And more often than not, it's the day after we would actually start to feel hungry and back to normal.
Quite a few of our friends have actually found that they love hot French fries. They finish and just the saltiness, or maybe an hour or two later, they're getting, after having all the sweet things that you often have during endurance events, that to get that salty, savoury flavour and something, So that's another sort of favourite thing that people often...
I don't know if you guys are familiar with In-N-Out Burger here in the Southern California area.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done races in Arizona. Yeah.
Okay, yes, in Arizona, yes, that is definitely one of my gigs after a long endurance ride. So before we close it up here, let's bring this together. Tell us the 8 events and the 8 countries you visited.
Okay, well, our first event was the Comrades Marathon in South Africa, and it was 87 kilometres. Do you want to, we alternate?
No, you can do them.
Oh, okay. And our second event was in Mauritius. So we're back to marathon distance now. So the first one was 87, Mauritius, marathon distance, 42 kilometres, 42.2. Then on to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil.
Where's Mauritius? Where was Mauritius?
Mauritius is an island in the
Ireland.
Indian Ocean.
Okay.
Not far from South Africa.
Yeah, not far from South Africa. Then we went via London to get to Brazil, to get to Rio, so lots of flying. Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, 42.2 kilometres. Then up to Calgary in Canada, marathon distance. Across to Missoula in Montana in the US.
Yeah.
Then down to Pattaya in Thailand.
About an hour south of Bangkok.
Okay.
Then up to Davos in the Swiss Alps in Europe, so big flight across. Then back to Townsville in Australia for marathon number 8. And we got back on the 8th of the 8th, 2008.
Oh, wow.
August 2008.
What a way to pull it all together there, you guys.
Yeah, the 8s kept coming up.
They did.
Nice.
They did.
Awesome. To end this thing up, because it's just been awesome, and just one piece of advice you give to a newbie runner, a newbie couple who's looking to do this, what is the one piece of advice you give them? If they come up to you and go, hey, we're looking at doing this. I was like you, Andrew. The guy comes up and says, I'm like you, Andrew. I'm smoking. I'm out of shape. What do you tell them?
I think the conversation about why they're doing it and what they want to achieve is the starting point, and without the answer to that is what it is, and then you set about doing whatever helps you go to where you want to go to. That being said, for those people who want to do it together and explore all the great benefits that come with it, even if it's just for one event, and give it your best shot, I think the fundamental principle that you'll stick together no matter what.
Okay.
And you see your success. It's not about how fast I can go or anything like that. It's about how fast we can go.
Nice.
And if you have that as your non-negotiable, see, when we run, we're both more focused on other people than ourselves. So we see each other. I see Sue cross the finish line, and I see myself next to her cheering her on. So I don't see me running across the finish line doing the, aren't I wonderful, I've crossed the finish line. I see me running across the finish line next to Sue cheering for her.
Mm-hmm.
And when you set about acknowledging that you're going to do it together no matter what, then that frees you up from the stuff which can get you into strife, like, oh, come on, you're too slow today, or you're not this, or you're not that. It's like, well, it could be me who's too slow today. Doesn't matter. We're just going to do this together. And so you're then free to find all the possibilities and the ways of getting there together.
Yeah.
Nice.
And you also have sets of perhaps of ground rules that you can set, that you're not going to do this, you're not going to say that, I'm not going to do this, we're going to work on a positive. Everything we do is positive. We never bag each other or put each other down. Everything's just on a positive note, rather than negative.
We all, one of our little principles is we always go as fast as the slowest person.
Yeah.
So if somebody's feeling sick, or somebody's injured, or somebody's struggling with the heat, or like if it's a hot day, I'm in trouble. If it's a windy day, Sue's in trouble. So it's like,
what goes around comes around.
We're sort of, we share and help each other. And so that notion of going as fast as the slowest person. Now, I've never seen anybody go faster because their partner was yelling at them to go faster.
Right.
yet often that's what people do. They yell at each other, go faster, or you're doing this or that. And that just doesn't solve it. So
yeah,
you trust that your partner's doing their best, and you just stick with them.
Awesome. So where can people find you guys?
Well, on the internet, coupleontherun.com is our website.
Okay.
We're on Facebook as Couple on the Run, and we're on Twitter.
We are
Couple on the Run.
Couple on the Run.
And for pretty much for anyone anywhere in the world, the book, the easiest place for a lot of people is both the hard copy and the ebook is available on Amazon.
Okay.
So for people who've got iPads and Kindles and those things, you can get it from Amazon, and also Amazon certainly is the best way to ship to North America, Europe, that sort of area. You can buy it from coupleontherun.com, and certainly for any Australian, New Zealand people, that's a good way to get it.
Okay.
And then we also have our partner running site, which is very much about the tips and tools for
partnering for people working together.
Awesome. And folks, if you're listening to this and it's on your iPod, make sure you jump back to fitmarriage.com. I'm going to have links to all of this below the video interview and the audio interview, so you can check out Andrew and Sue. You can learn more about them, what they're doing, and how you can, start partner running with your spouse. And maybe in 10 years, we'll be talking to you having done 50 plus marathons and 8 marathons in 8 weeks or something crazy like that. So hopefully these guys have given you a lot of inspiration to seek something else, seek something different that you and your spouse can do that can really increase the intimacy in your marriage, not just emotionally or intellectually, but recreationally, sexually, physically. Heck, it's all good, because when we're working together and we're helping each other out in a relationship, there's a lot that can happen. So thank you, Andrew and Sue, for your time this evening. It has been awesome. I truly appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. It was great.
All right. Have a great one.
Thank you.
What a fantastic interview with Andrew and Sue. Go out, pick up their book, Couple on the Run. Learn more about running as a couple and what it can do for you physically and what it can do for your marriage as you communicate together and you get closer together. To learn more about what these guys are doing, coupleontherun.com or partnerrunning.com. Have a great week, and let me know how this interview has impacted your life. Have a great day.